The HOA accused him of illegal parking, but little did they know he would turn the tables. As the battle for the coveted parking lot raged on, one man's fight for justice became an all-out war against an overbearing homeowners association. With a twist no one saw coming, the stage was set for an explosive confrontation that would leave everyone stunned. The sun had barely risen, but already the tension was palpable in the quiet suburban neighborhood. In the driveway of a modest two-story home, James stood, his jaw clenched, as he stared down the imposing figure of the HOA president, Ms. Evelyn. "This is the third time this week we've caught you parking in the guest spots, James," Evelyn said, her voice dripping with disdain. "You know the rules. Those spots are for visitors only." James took a deep breath, trying to keep his temper in check. "I work from home, Evelyn. Where else am I supposed to park? The assigned spots are always full by the time I get back from dropping the kids off at school." Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "That's not my problem. You signed the covenants, just like everyone else. If you can't follow the rules, there will be consequences." "Consequences?" James scoffed. "Like what? Another fine? I'm tired of being nickeled and dimed by this HOA. It's ridiculous." "Ridiculous." Evelyn's face twisted into a smug expression. "Well, we'll see how ridiculous it is when your car gets towed." Again. With that, Evelyn turned on her heel and strode back to her car, leaving James fuming in the driveway. He watched as she pulled out of the neighborhood, her tail lights disappearing down the street. Clenching his fists, James stormed back into the house, his mind racing. He couldn't keep living under the HOA's tyrannical rule, constantly worrying about where he could park his own car. Enough was enough. "Honey, what's wrong?" his wife, Sarah, asked, concern etched on her face as he burst through the front door. "The HOA is at it again," James growled, pacing the living room. "Evelyn just threatened to have my car towed if I parked in the guest spots one more time." Sarah sighed, already knowing where this was headed. "What are you going to do?" James paused, a determined look settling on his features. "I'm going to fight back. I'm going to show them that they can't push me around anymore." With a newfound sense of purpose, James strode over to his laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard as he began to research his options. Sarah watched, both worried and intrigued, as her husband's plan began to take shape. Little did the HOA know, they had just ignited a fire that would consume them all. Over the next few days, James was a man on a mission. He pored over the HOA's bylaws, searching for any loopholes or technicalities he could exploit. Sarah watched with a mixture of concern and admiration as her husband's determination grew, his fingers tapping furiously on the keyboard as he pieced together his plan. "Aha!" James exclaimed one evening, a triumphant grin spreading across his face. "I've got it." Sarah looked up from the book she was reading. "What is it?" "The HOA's rules state that any common areas, including the guest parking, must be maintained and operated by the association," James explained, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "But there's nothing in the bylaws that says they have to own the land." Sarah's brow furrowed. "What are you getting at?" "I'm going to buy the parking lot," James declared, leaning back in his chair. "Then I can set the rules and do whatever I want with it." Sarah's eyes widened. "But how are you going to afford that? The HOA has been gouging us with fees for years." James waved a hand dismissively. "I've been saving up. Remember that bonus I got a few months ago? I've been stashing it away, just waiting for the right opportunity." He stood up and began pacing the room, his mind racing. "If I can get the deed to the parking lot, the HOA won't be able to touch me. I'll be in control, and they'll have to play by my rules." Sarah chewed on her lip, still uncertain. "I don't know, James. This seems like a pretty big risk. What if it backfires?" James paused and pulled his wife into a tight embrace. "Trust me, Sarah. This is going to work. I'm not going to let them bully us anymore. It's time to take back control." With renewed determination, James set out to put his plan into action. He reached out to the local real estate agent, discreetly inquiring of the ownership of the parking lot. The agent, eager to close a deal, was more than happy to provide the information. Within a week, James had a meeting scheduled with the property owner, ready to negotiate the purchase of the coveted land. The stage was set for a showdown that would shake the very foundation of the HOA's power. The day of the meeting with the property owner arrived, and James felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. He had been meticulously planning this moment, determined to gain control over the parking lot and finally put an end to the HOA's constant harassment. As he pulled into the realtor's office, James took a deep breath, mentally rehearsing his negotiation strategy. He knew he needed to strike the right balance between assertiveness and diplomacy to secure the deal. The realtor, a friendly middle-aged woman named Deborah, greeted him with a warm smile. "James, I'm so glad you could make it. The owner is waiting for us in the conference room." James nodded, his palms slightly sweaty as he followed Deborah down the hallway. "Thank you for arranging this meeting on such short notice." "Not a problem at all," Deborah replied. "I have to say, I'm quite intrigued by your interest in the parking lot. Most people in this neighborhood are content to just deal with the HOA." James couldn't help but chuckle. "Well, I'm not most people. I'm tired of being pushed around, and I'm ready to take matters into my own hands." Deborah opened the conference room door, and James was met with the stern gaze of the property owner, a well-dressed man in his 60s. "Mr. Williamson, this is James, the gentleman I told you about," Deborah said, gesturing for James to take a seat. "Pleasure to meet you, James," Mr. Williamson said, his voice measured and professional. "Deborah tells me you have a particular interest in the parking lot. May I ask what your intentions are?" James leaned forward, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Well, Mr. Williamson, the truth is, I'm tired of the HOA in my neighborhood pushing me around. They've been threatening to tow my car for parking in the guest spots, even though I have no other option. I'd like to buy the parking lot from you, if you're willing to sell." Mr. Williamson raised an eyebrow, the ghost of a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "I see. And what exactly do you plan to do with the parking lot if you acquire it?" James squared his shoulders, determined to prove his resolve. "I'm going to set my own rules. No more bullying from the HOA. I'm going to run the parking lot in a way that works for the residents, not just the association." The property owner leaned back in his chair, contemplating James' words. Deborah, sensing the tension in the room, remained silent, her eyes darting between the two men. After a moment, Mr. Williamson spoke again. "Well, James, I must say, I'm impressed by your tenacity. You're not the first person to come to me with complaints about the HOA, but you're the first one who's actually taken action." He paused, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Tell me, how much are you willing to pay for the parking lot?" James felt a surge of hope. "I've been saving up, and I'm prepared to offer $250,000 for the property." Mr. Williamson's eyes whitened slightly, and Deborah let out a soft gasp. "That's a very generous offer, I must say. And you're willing to take on all the responsibilities of maintaining and operating the parking lot?" James nodded, his heart pounding. "Absolutely. I'm ready to take control and put an end to the HOA's nonsense." Mr. Williamson leaned forward, a hint of amusement in his expression. "Well then, Mr. James, I think we have a deal." As the two men shook hands, James felt a rush of triumph. The tide was about to turn in this suburban battlefield, and he was the one holding the winning cards. News of James' acquisition of the parking lot spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. The HOA, led by the ever-persistent Evelyn, was immediately up in arms, convening an emergency meeting to discuss the shocking turn of events. "This is an outrage," Evelyn thundered, pacing back and forth in front of the gathered HOA board members. "How dare that man undermine our authority like this?" One of the board members, a timid woman named Mrs. Peterson, raised a shaky hand. But Evelyn, if he owns the property, doesn't that mean he can set the rules? Evelyn fixed her with a withering glare. Of course not. This is our neighborhood, and we will not be dictated to by some rogue homeowner. She slammed her fist on the table, causing the others to jump. We need to put a stop to this immediately. I won't have James disrupting the delicate balance of our community. The board members exchanged uneasy glances, clearly unsure of how to proceed. Evelyn's ruthless determination was well known, and they knew better than to cross her. What do you suggest we do, Evelyn? Asked another board member, his voice trembling slightly. Evelyn's lips curled into a sinister smile. We'll fight fire with fire. I'm going to speak to our lawyers and see if there's any way we can challenge this purchase. James may own the land, but he won't be able to stop us from enforcing our rules. As the meeting adjourned, Evelyn strode out of the room, her mind racing with schemes and machinations. She was determined to maintain the HOA's grip on the neighborhood, even if it meant resorting to underhanded tactics. Meanwhile, James was busy putting his own plans into motion. He had wasted no time in taking control of the parking lot, quickly erecting new signage, and setting up a system for residents to obtain parking permits. This is going to be great, Sarah, he said excitedly, showing his wife the new rules and regulations. No more fines, no more threats of towing. Everyone gets a fair shot at a spot. Sarah couldn't help but smile at her husband's enthusiasm, though a small part of her still worried about the potential fallout. I'm glad you're taking charge, James, but you know Evelyn and the HOA won't just roll over and accept this. They're going to fight back. James nodded, his expression turning serious. I know, and I'm ready for them. I've got a few tricks up my sleeve, and I'm not going to let them bully me anymore. He pulled Sarah into a tight hug, his determination fueling his every move. This is our neighborhood too, and it's time we took it back. Little did James know, the battle was only just beginning. Evelyn wasted no time in mobilizing the HOA's legal team. She was determined to find a way to regain control of the parking lot, even if it meant resorting to underhanded tactics. There has to be something in the covenants that gives us leverage, she muttered, poring over the thick stack of documents. James may have bought the land, but he can't just ignore our rules. The HOA's attorney, a sharp-eyed woman named Samantha, cleared her throat. Evelyn, I've been reviewing the documents, and I'm afraid the covenants don't give us much to work with in this case. James owns the property, and as long as he's maintaining it properly, we can't simply dictate how he chooses to manage it. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. Well, that can't be right. There must be some loophole, some technicality we can exploit. Samantha shook her head. I'm sorry, but the law is quite clear on this. Unless James is violating any zoning laws or safety regulations, we don't have any legal grounds to challenge his ownership or the rules he's implemented. Evelyn slammed her fist on the table, her face flushed with anger. This is unacceptable. I won't let James undermine our authority in this neighborhood. There has to be something we can do. Samantha pursed her lips, contemplating the situation. There might be one option, but it's a bit unconventional. Evelyn leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with a dangerous light. I'm listening. Samantha shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Well, we could try to get the residents to band together and buy the parking lot from James. If we can raise enough money, we might be able to outbid him and regain control. Evelyn's lips curled into a malicious smile. Now that's more like it. Get started on that immediately, Samantha. I want every homeowner in this neighborhood contributing to this fund. Samantha nodded, her own reservations about the plan evident in her expression. I'll begin reaching out to the residents right away. But Evelyn, I must warn you. This could backfire. If James gets wind of what we're doing, he may not be willing to sell, and it could cause even more tensions in the community. Evelyn waved a dismissive hand. I don't care about the consequences, Samantha. I'm going to do whatever it takes to put James back in his place. This is my neighborhood, and I won't let him take that away from me. As Samantha reluctantly left the meeting, Evelyn leaned back in her chair, a self-satisfied smirk on her face. She was ready to wage war, and this time, she was determined to emerge victorious. The news of the HOA's plan to buy back the parking lot from James quickly spread through the neighborhood, sparking a flurry of activity and debate among the residents. Some, like Mrs. Peterson, were eager to contribute to the fund, eager to restore the HOA's control and end the ongoing conflict. "This is for the good of the community," she insisted to her neighbors. "We can't let James dictate the rules. It's time we took back what's ours." However, others, like James' close friend and neighbor, David, were skeptical of the HOA's motives. "This is just Evelyn's way of trying to maintain her power," David argued, his brow furrowed in concern. "She doesn't care about what's best for the neighborhood. She just wants to stay in control." James, having caught wind of the HOA's scheme, was furious. He called an emergency meeting with Sarah, his mind racing with a plan to counteract their underhanded tactics. "They're not going to get away with this, Sarah," he said, pacing the living room. "I won't let them bully me out of what's rightfully mine." Sarah reached out and placed a calming hand on his arm. "I know, honey. But what are you going to do? Evelyn is relentless, and she's got the whole HOA behind her." James paused, a determined glint in his eyes. "I'm going to fight fire with fire. If they want to raise money to buy back the parking lot, then I'm going to raise even more to make sure they can't." He began pacing again, his mind whirring with ideas. "I'm going to put together a GoFundMe campaign, reach out to local businesses for donations. Anything to rally the community on my side." Sarah's eyes widened. "James, do you really think that will work? Evelyn has a lot of influence in the neighborhood." James stopped and pulled Sarah into a hug. "It has to work, Sarah. I won't let them take this away from us. We've worked too hard to build a life here, and I'm not going to let some power-hungry HOA president ruin it." With renewed determination, James set out to put his plan into action. He knew the battle was far from over, but he was more than ready to fight for what was his. As the residents of the neighborhood began to choose sides, the tension in the air was palpable. The stage was set for an epic showdown, one that would test the very fabric of the community. The neighborhood was in a state of turmoil as the war between James and the HOA escalated. Evelyn's relentless campaign to raise funds and reclaim the parking lot had galvanized some of the residents, while others staunchly supported James' defiant stance. Tensions ran high, with neighbors divided and tempers flaring in every turn. Evelyn, fueled by her thirst for power, spearheaded the fundraising efforts, going door to door and holding community meetings to rally the troops. "This is about more than just a parking lot," she would declare passionately. "It's about preserving the integrity of our neighborhood and the authority of the HOA. We can't let James dictate the rules to us." Her impassioned pleas struck a chord with some residents, who eagerly opened their wallets to contribute to the cause. But others, like David, remained skeptical, accusing Evelyn of using the situation to further her own agenda. "She doesn't care about the community," David argued, his voice rising in frustration. "All she cares about is maintaining her own power and control. This has nothing to do with what's best for us." James, meanwhile, was working tirelessly to counter Evelyn's efforts. He had launched a crowdfunding campaign, reaching out to local businesses and rallying the support of like-minded residents who were fed up with the HOA's heavy-handed tactics. "We're not going to let them bully us out of our own neighborhood," James declared passionately in a video appeal. "This parking lot belongs to the community, and I'm going to fight to keep it that way." The competition between the two camps quickly escalated, with each side employing increasingly aggressive tactics. Evelyn threatened legal action, while James accused the HOA of underhanded scheming. The once peaceful community had descended into a veritable war zone. As the fundraising efforts reached fever pitch, both James and Evelyn knew that the outcome would be a decisive moment, not just for the parking lot, but for the very soul of the neighborhood. The stage was set for a final showdown, one that would determine who would emerge victorious in this epic battle. The day of the final showdown had arrived, and the neighborhood was buzzing with anticipation. Both James and Evelyn had pulled out all the stops in their respective fundraising campaigns, rallying the community to their cause. As the residents gathered at the community center for the final verdict, the tension in the air was palpable. Evelyn stood at the front of the room, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of determination and barely concealed triumph. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, her voice carrying an authoritative edge. "As you know, we have been working tirelessly to raise the funds necessary to buy back the parking lot from James. And I'm proud to announce that, thanks to your generous contributions, we have succeeded." A smattering of applause broke out among the gathered homeowners, but James' face remained impassive, his arms crossed defiantly over his chest. Evelyn continued, her gaze sweeping the room. "With the money we've raised, we will be able to purchase the parking lot and restore the HOA's control over this vital community asset. No longer will we be beholden to the whims of a single homeowner." She paused, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. "James, I'm sure you can understand that this is the best outcome for our neighborhood. I hope you'll accept our offer and move on, rather than continuing this needless conflict." All eyes turned to James, who remained silent for a moment, seemingly unfazed by Evelyn's declaration. Then, a slow, sardonic smile crept across his features. "You know, Evelyn, I have to hand it to you. You really know how to put on a show," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "But I'm afraid your little fundraising campaign has been for naught." Evelyn's brow furrowed in confusion. "What are you talking about, James? We have the money. We've won." James chuckled, shaking his head. "Oh no, Evelyn. You see, while you were busy rallying the troops, I was busy ensuring that the parking lot would remain in my hands." He reached into his pocket and produced a set of keys, jingling them triumphantly. "I've already completed the purchase of the parking lot. It's officially mine, free and clear." The room erupted in stunned silence, as Evelyn's face contorted with a mixture of shock and fury. But how?" she stammered, her composure crumbling. James leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with a fierce vindication. "Simple, really. I knew you'd try to pull something like this, so I put the wheels in motion weeks ago. I've been working with a property owner to secure the deed, and he was more than happy to sell to me instead of the HOA." He paused, his expression darkening. "You see, Evelyn, this is about more than just a parking lot. It's about standing up to bullies like you who think they can control every aspect of our lives. Well, not anymore. This parking lot is mine, and I'm going to run it the way I see fit." Evelyn opened and closed her mouth several times, struggling to find the words to respond. The gathered residents, once divided, now stared at James with a newfound respect and admiration. In the end, Evelyn could only manage a defeated sigh, her dreams of reclaiming the parking lot crumbling around her. James had outmaneuvered her at every turn, and the balance of power in the neighborhood had shifted irrevocably. As the meeting adjourned, James walked out of the community center, his head held high. He had fought for his right to park in his own neighborhood, and in the end, he had emerged victorious. The HOA's reign of terror was over, and a new era of justice and self-determination had begun.